All right, we are delighted to welcome our next guest to the program, Christian Hine. He's the head of an organization called Caution, which stands for Common Americans United to Inspire Our Nation. And we're going to be talking about, enough of controversy. Let's talk about the toll lanes, proposed toll lanes for I-77. I say facetiously because, of course, that's controversial. Also, Mr. Hine, welcome to the program. How are you, sir?
I am doing wonderful. It's a privilege to be on with you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now, I'm trying to wrap my mind around this whole thing. The Speaker of the House, Tom Tillis, who has steadfastly refused to come on this program or any program that I host to talk about the hot lanes. There's a video of him last year saying, whoa, no. We don't want to put any toll lanes on an existing interstate like I-95. You know, that might set a precedent for 77 or something like that. And now he and other powers that be in Raleigh, and by the way, don't tell anybody because I got a reputation to think about, but I'm going to be greatly criticizing some Republicans this evening, but that's just between you and me.
I won't tell.
It seems like the Republican leadership in Raleigh is just down with this thing, and this is just what we got to do. And I spoke yesterday when I filled in for Keith Larson. I spoke with State Representative Robert Brawley, who said, look, if we widen from 4 to 6 lanes, 50% more traffic capacity, it would cost way under $100 million. If we widen from 4 to 8 lanes, and both of the 4 new lanes are toll lanes, hot lanes, and we're talking about, I guess, between Brookshire Freeway and Mooresville and I-77, we're talking $550 million. We're talking a 50-year deal that we can't get out of with a foreign company. What is it? Parsons Brinkerhoff, who by the way, invested some money in the Charlotte Light Rail line. I bet people didn't know that. Dude, this thing stinks to high heaven. Maybe you could speak to it, sir.
Wow. Well, there is so much involved in this issue, and it really stems, there's 2 sides to it, really. There's the policy side and there's the political side. And from the policy perspective, you just mentioned some numbers which are accurate. Those of us who are against toll lanes in general are more specifically opposed to the use of these hot lanes, these high occupancy toll lanes.
Yeah.
We are unfortunately continually bombarded with the idea that the state is oh so broke and has not enough money to fund the transportation infrastructure of our state. And yet, as you just alluded to, what we're looking at now with this hot lane project as they are proposing it is significantly more costly and more expensive, not just in terms of the overall expense, but also in terms of the amount of money that the taxpayers will be on the hook for.
Right.
And you're talking about the state spending about $170 million as part of this $550 million project, the bulk of that expense going into areas that aren't even suffering from the congestion that we're trying to alleviate in North Mecklenburg and southern Iredell counties. When for a significantly lower amount of money, we would actually be able to build general purpose lanes that would be available for everybody and oh shock, actually help in the congestion issues that are being experienced in those areas.
Yeah, and, I hear horror stories, and we read horror stories in the news, about, Tom Tillis is the guy that gets the most press. I don't know about the head of the state Senate, Berger. I've heard some stuff behind the scenes about the governor, but Republicans seem to be really pushing this in Raleigh, and I thought it was a bipartisan thing because I just figured the Democrats are pushing it because Democrat mayor of Davidson is just down with it. He don't want to hear from the citizens, But the Democrats in Raleigh are being eerily quiet about this, and we want to talk about that here in just a minute. We're speaking with Christian Hine from the Caution Group, the Tea Party group here, and affiliated with WidenI77.org about the hot lanes that are proposed for I-77, which I think would just be a monstrosity. Doc Washburn and for Hancock. More coming up straight ahead. News Talk 1110 WBT.
Diamond's Direct Vice President Dovi.
Okay, so we're speaking with Christian Hine from the Caution Tea Party group here in Charlotte about the whole widen I-77 thing. A lot of us would just like to see it widen with just regular lanes. Republicans in the State House just seem to be determined. They got the hookup, so it would seem, with this Parsons Brinkerhoff foreign company that wants to widen with two toll lanes, two hot lanes on either side of I-77 from Brookshire all the way up to Mooresville. And the tolls are going to be prohibitively expensive for, low-income working people. And, Mr. Hine, what I was saying right before the break, when I looked into this a little bit, the Democrats in Raleigh really aren't talking about this very much at all. And Tom Tillis already has an exploratory committee to think about running as a Republican for United States Senate next year against Kay Hagan. And I'm thinking she's probably already got the commercials ready. This guy doesn't care about you. Look, he was for these toll lanes. I'm not going to be like that. I'm one of you. I can't believe they're walking into this like this. How far off base am I?
Well, certainly, not off base specifically at all. And I guess it's a rule of politics. When you see the other side imploding themselves, the best tactic that you can take is to simply stay back and let it happen. There's no reason to inject yourself if the other side is doing enough damage to themselves.
Yeah, and boy, I tell you what, with the MUMPO meeting last week, and again, for folks who are just kind of going, okay, what's that? Mecklenburg Union Metropolitan Planning Organization, they were meeting to talk to make some kind of decision on their recommendation on the hot lanes. And we have a whole bunch of representatives from Mecklenburg County and a few representatives from adjoining counties. But my understanding is that the chairwoman of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, Sarah McCauley, who is she's a councilwoman in the town of Huntersville, just wouldn't let the folks speak who are against this. And to me, that's an outrage.
Yeah, that was, I was at that meeting, and that was probably one of the most disgraceful displays of abuse of power that I've ever experienced in my 20-plus years of political activism.
Wow.
But what we experienced that night was just part and parcel of how those that have been opposed to these hot lanes have been treated from the beginning. It seems that every opportunity there would be a chance for public input or to have a discussion about alternatives. Time and time again, we are met with closed doors. We're met with threatening phone calls. We're met with a disinterest in learning what the other side has to say. It seems like the hours that are given to the paid consultants are not allowed to be challenged. And I think that is just a complete and total disservice to any tax-paying citizen of North Carolina. We might not agree at the end of the day, but for heaven's sakes, if the public wants to express an alternative viewpoint, the way that it has not been allowed to date has been incredibly shameful. And there are certain people that really, there was a letter posted today to Sarah McCauley, who you mentioned, from Kurt Noss of the Widen I-77 organization, asking her to remove herself from the position and to resign, given the attitude and the tactics that she's taken. And I would seem to agree with that sentiment.
I had United States Representative Robert Pittenger on the show a couple weeks ago talking about some national issues. And right at the end of the interview, we only had a couple of minutes left, I asked him, because, he used to be in the North Carolina State Senate. I thought he might have an opinion on the hot lanes on I-77 in North Mecklenburg and southern Iredell County himself. I asked him about it, and I got what I thought was an unusual response. It seemed like he was kind of filibustering, talking about infrastructure and the airport and all kinds of needs and stuff. And I didn't really get a chance to break in and say, okay, is that a yes or a no? Do you think that the toll lanes in 77 are a good or bad thing? And I don't know, man. This thing is very deep, in my humble opinion.
Oh, it's certainly out of hand. And again, the idea that we have tried to present alternatives and to ask questions about funding mechanisms, and we are continually told from all sides that we just don't know what we're talking about, that it's really either toll lanes or nothing for 20 to 25 years, that the transportation or the Highway Trust Fund has been wasted over previous administrations, and now we're simply suffering the consequences of that. And so if anything needs to be done, it's going to require these toll lanes. And we don't believe that is completely accurate. We don't believe they're receiving all sides to the story. I'm not a tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorist, but you can see interests that some of these politicians have with the potential addition for toll lanes in certain areas. And it begs the question why they are so gung-ho to move forward with a plan. The goal of any transportation plan, in our opinion, should be to move the most number of people at the lowest cost possible.
That's just so crazy it might work.
Yeah, I mean, infrastructure is most certainly a necessary and proper role of government. But what we've run into here with these hot lanes is a proposal that they even admit will not move the most number of people. It almost ensures congestion on the existing general purpose lanes, which will not be widened, will not be added to. There will be penalties for doing other projects that would eliminate congestion issues. But they just seem so gung-ho on moving forward with this hot lane project. And it gets back, you mentioned Parsons-Brinkerhoff as the state's consultant on this. And here's a company that has a history of excessive cost. If you remember the Boston Big Dig, for example, the billions and billions of dollars over budget that project was.
That was them?
Company that was behind it.
That Parkers-Brinkerhoff was behind the Big Dig in Boston?
Yes, sir. They were one of the managing consultants on that project.
A guy got killed. A guy got killed in that thing.
I'm sorry?
A guy got killed in that thing when part of it collapsed.
Oh, part certainly collapsed. They have a history of running into cost overruns, and then when projects are attempted to be fixed, there's issues where there has been shoddy construction and engineering. Certain people have been thrown under the bus and individuals fired, and that's probably a good thing. But there is a track record of success, or the lack thereof, with this particular company, constantly running into these types of cost overruns. There was an 80-foot sinkhole in Los Angeles on Hollywood Boulevard. Parsons-Brinkerhoff was connected to that. The cost overruns on the Blue Line in Charlotte, where they failed to even take into consideration interest or inflation as part of their pricing proposal. But they have their consulting firm. They have subcontractors and engineers that stand to make money on these engineering projects. There's a great deal of money that is spread around to elected officials to make sure that they get the contracts that they're looking for. And
now, does that go like through PACs, like political action committees, that sort of thing?
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Does that go through PACs, like political action committees?
I'm sure a lot of it is PAC money. Some of it is through people that aren't necessarily directly tied to the company, but have jobs that they are subcontracted out to. Again, this would be an amazing opportunity, I think, for an investigative report to follow the track record of a lot of these donations and the politicians that ultimately end up with them.
Now, there was a guy who was doing some investigative reporting, if I understand correctly, Israel Balderas at WCCB, what we used to call in the old analog days, Channel 18, but he's not only is he no longer with the TV station, but I understand all of his video news reports about this subject have been scrubbed from the website. His other stuff's still on there, but this stuff's just gone. I don't want to be a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist either, but I mean, it's enough to make you go, okay, wait a minute, what was that?
Exactly. Well, you look at members of the media who have taken a stance on this issue, who have tried simply to ask questions, who we now see as losing jobs. We see politicians who are simply asking questions, which then gets turned into a brouhaha and people resigning from various positions.
Well, State Representative Brawley in Iredell County was Tillis told him, "I want your gavel. You're no longer head of the committee." Here in the State House. This insistence on making this thing happen. I hate to be cynical enough with fellow Republicans to say follow the money, but I can't think of any other explanation here.
Yeah, it is disappointing, and any one of these stories individually, it's because I'm not involved in the private discussions that are going on, and any one of these instances by themselves could be looked at, and we could understand that maybe we just don't know the whole story or what exactly happened. But you start building a narrative over the course of several weeks, and now we've got 3 or 4 different examples of a very similar thing happening. And again, it's worthy of having questions asked. And if we're wrong, we're wrong. We're not.
Okay, we only got about a minute left.
But we just want the truth.
We only got about a minute left. Talking with Christian Hine from the Caution Tea Party group here in Charlotte. What's the next step, and what can people who don't want these hot lanes on I-77 happen? What's the best thing for them to do?
Well, the best thing first, I would say, educate yourself on the issue. The WidenI77.org group has an amazing website with a lot of information.
Yeah.
What we think now is that it's quite possibly going to be the state Senate that will be able to hopefully come up with some sort of mechanism by which we can pause this process to have the dialogue and come up with other discussions. So I would encourage people to contact their state senators and let them know that you are opposed to the creation of hot lanes, that we're looking for answers, that there has to be a better way, and we want that discussion to be able to take place.
Fantastic. Christian Hine, appreciate you coming on the program, sir. I don't know where the time goes. I say it all the time. Whenever we have a compelling guest, it just goes like that. God bless you, sir. Thank you so much. Hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the time.
Have a great one. Thank you. And look for